with the tax rate information. We've had a couple of budget workshops, so some of this is not going to be new to the board members. We're going to go over this handout here that you should have in front of you. And if you have any questions, please ask. Raymond Mendoza and Ambris will help me with the presentation. So the board is required to approve the general fund, food service fund, and debt service fund budgets. We're going to go over those in details, and we will provide supplementary information on the other special revenue funds. If you have any questions, please ask. So estimated revenues and appropriations, our local general funds amount of 188.
What page?
That's page 2. Yeah. Page 2 of the PowerPoint. So these are the budgets that the board is required to approve. General fund, food service, and entrance and sinking. General funds revenues, we have $188.9 million of revenues, $188.9 million of appropriations. Food service, $18.2 million of revenues and $18.2 million of appropriations. Interest and sinking, about $9.3 million in revenues and $9.3 million in appropriations. The total for these funds, $216,535,000 in revenues and appropriations, so it's a balanced budget as we move forward. Some of the factors impacting our budget this year are estimated certified tax roll, about $4.5 billion. That's an increase of about 4.1% of last year. Our collection tax rate, they were projecting about 97.5% collection tax rate. Tax rate that we're proposing at the current time is $1.15.62, which is $1.0082 of maintenance and operations and 14.8 cents of interest and sinking. So right now there's no change to the tax rate. As the county finishes certifying the taxable values, we might come back, with the board to adopt the tax rate in September. It could be a little bit lower than what we're projecting now. And we've done this over the past 3 years, so there's some additional calculations to do that, but there's not going to be a tax rate increase, and it's actually going to be a tax rate decrease because of the additional homestead exemption that was approved by the voters. So taxpayers are going to realize, at least a reduction to their taxes of about $135, per household. So that's good news for the taxpayer. Our student average daily attendance, we're projecting a 16,275. We did have some increases in our budget. A property insurance increase about $150,000 overall this year. Had some decreases to our budget. Staffing guideline adjustments of about, savings of about $1.6 million, which is about 19 teachers net reduction. We did finish paying off some leases, that we had, the school bus lease and the scoreboard lease, so there's a savings of $613,000 as well. We had a 5% reduction to central office department budget, savings of about $934,000. And then we had some one-time costs there from last year's budget that we're able to reduce, this year as well, a little bit over $1 million. So there's approximately $4 million there of savings from last year's budget. So as we move forward and we make these recommendations for our salary increases, that's where we're getting the money based on these reductions. Composition panel adjustments, we did review that with human resources and some other team members, and so there's some adjustments that are about $45,000. Teacher starting pay, we're proposing teacher starting pay to be $53,550, and that's based on TASB's recommendations. As are these adjustments that we're proposing for staff. So based on TASB's recommendations, we're proposing to have teachers on the staff on the teacher scale, $1,500 a year increase. Teachers with 25 plus years of experience, $2,000 an increase. And some other teacher market adjustments are between $400 and $1,990, depending on what step you are on the teacher. So for example, if you're a 15-year teacher, you'll get the $1,500 plus an additional $1,990. So it's about a $3,500 increase for that teacher in that slot. And that's, according to TASB, to get us to the market in that particular, years of service in that scale. So that's and it's adjusted throughout the teacher scale. We had some other professional administrators, 2.5% of midpoint, increased, as an increase as well. Hourly staff at 3.5% out of a midpoint increase for them as well, and some other non-teacher market adjustment based on the TASB study. And I'll go over that, one pager here in a minute. Some adjustments to some stipends as well. We're recommended to increase a master's degree stipend to $3,000 from $2,000, so that's an increase of $1,000 in the content area. So those teachers that have a master's degree in content area will get a $3,000 stipend. Secondary math and science, we're proposing to increase that to $2,500 from $1,500, so that's a $1,000 increase for those teachers. Special education general resource, we're proposing to increase that from to $1,500, from $900 up to $1,500, so that's a $600 increase for them. And the special education self-contained, we're proposing to increase that to $2,000. There was $1,750, Deb, right? $1,750 last year, so we're doing that. And high school athletic stipends, we're proposing to increase those as well. And we've actually been considering this over the last couple of years. We're able to do it this year, and it varies depending on the coach, the sports that they're coaching. Another increase, that is recommended by TASB is to increase our bus driver starting pay to $16.75 an hour. That's actually a $1.50 increase from where we were last year. We are also proposing to have a health insurance increase of about 5%. We're going to be reviewing this with our employee benefit committee probably in August, I believe, and finalize that number, but it will not be more than 5%.
It's 5%, or this is 0.05%?
Yeah, it should be 5%. Yeah, 5%, yeah. Some other factors that we have incorporated into the budget, we are proposing to continue to do the retention stipend this year. As you remember, this past year we gave a $3,000 retention stipend to staff, all staff. We're proposing to do a $1,500 retention stipend, to all staff, this year. $1,000 in December and $500 in May, and that's when we'll be proposing to pay that retention stipend. Yes, sir.
Can you back up one more?
Sure.
Oscar, I noticed on the starting salary for the bus drivers is $16.75. What's San Benito and our surrounding communities paying? Because I noticed we've always got a sign out across from Whataburger for bus drivers and.
Yeah.
Why don't we discuss that, and Julio has that information?
Yeah. So it varies. Throughout the area. I'm not sure what San Benito's at. I know they were at $15.61 last year. I'm not sure what they increased it this year, but everybody's making some adjustments to bus driver pay. They continue to be a hard to fill area. That market is very competitive. With the commercial truck drivers. So we continue to have issues trying to fill those positions, but we are increasing it to $16.75 and some adjustments to some of those individuals that are in that category. So some of the current bus drivers that we have will realize a bigger increase than 3.5. It just depends on how many years of experience they have. But San Benito, I know they're at $15.61 last year. I'm not sure what they went up to this year.
I'd be real interested in seeing what Brownsville, Los Fresnos, West Laco are paying, because that's an important job. You need competent people driving those, or driving our children, and they've got to have a commercial license.
But it sounds like, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the comparison we've done because of this
the TASB study, right.
TASB salary, what do you call it? Salary study, thank you. It sounds like we've done better than that, because now,
I hope so.
because in the years in past, we've always been comparing, teacher pay and this, that, the other with what we do here and our peers and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the focus was elsewhere, and so we were off. To your point, we were off in so many other ways. As the years went on, we got off track. But with starting pay, we were very competitive and things like that. But if I can ask a question with regard, but I think he's right. We want to be competitive there with bus drivers and that kind of stuff. The $1.50 increase is a pretty significant increase, right? For that.
It is. So we go back to the TASB study. So they did the study, and this is what they're recommending to to adjust this year. It's not to say that other districts aren't doing some adjustment. You mentioned Westlaco. Westlaco just passed their salary compensation. They're started at $20 an hour, and that's a big increase for them.
So thank you for doing this study. Thank you for doing this, Doc. And I mean, this is awesome. It took a while, but we knew that it was going to take a while. But my question is real brief. It has to do with, because if I remember correctly, and maybe my memory is not correct, but I think a lot of the question to initiate the study, if my memory serves me correct, it began about hourly employees and paraprofessionals. And then we said, wait, let's not stop there. Let's look at everybody in the district, right? And that's how we got here. Would you say, in your analysis, that the gaps that we needed to fill were greater with our teachers or or greater on the paraprofessionals and hourly, or both? How would you kind of look at that? How do you?
I think it was greater on the teachers within the 5 to 15-year experience. That's where we found the biggest adjustment, right? So I think it was there. The adjustments to the other staff, they were minimal. I mean, I would think they were minimal, but there were some adjustments.
So in other words, we weren't far off where we were paying, let's say, paraprofessionals hourly. We weren't far off there. I mean,
No.
we're giving them a bump,
Yeah.
obviously,
Right.
but we weren't far. But where we were really kind of missing the mark is the 5 to 15-year teacher kind of thing.
Yes,
Is that
yeah.
correct?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, right, Debbie? I mean, yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, the TASB study really, they're the ones that went out there and looked at the market and they did their analysis, and that was the recommendation that they brought forward. So yeah, we feel that we're going to be competitive, in the marketplace.
Well,
for this
I mean,
year.
this turns out to be pretty big deal.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a significant increase for staff, and a conservative one as well. We certainly want to make sure that we're within our budget constraints. So.
Ask a follow-up question, please, to what
done,
Nolan's saying.
If you just get closer to the microphone.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Pursuing the line of thought just a little bit more to what both of my colleagues have been asking, just a question for clarification. And understanding the budget process. So should we determine, should staff and should we determine as the year goes by with the fluctuation in resources the way it is in the United States right now, post-COVID, and people not being able to hire enough and, paying a lot more to fix it and all, it seems to me to be an ongoing process, unlike in years past, perhaps. Is there or is there not, and I'm not arguing for either one, I'm just asking, is there not an opportunity for an adjustment during the year, should it be determined that we need to do that? Say that we find we cannot fill the bus driver position, or we cannot, is there an opportunity for us to re-examine that, or in the budget process, is this the one and only time that those decisions need to be
I think the
made?
board can make that decision at any time. Of course, it has to be approved by the board at that particular time. And, we're bringing forward for approval the compensation plan that is set for this year. But during the course of the year, if there are some additional adjustments that the board wanted to do, then that will require board action.
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
I have one other quick question, if I could, please, Mr. Chair. And this also is just for clarification or for affirmation that I'm understanding it correctly, that every year we designate according to, I think, what staff recommends, that there are certain categories or classifications of staff that are given stipends when others are not. And I just want to be certain that everyone understands that we're not singling out math and science as more important than the liberal arts, or more important than a reading teacher, or more. I believe I'm asking for for you to tell me if this is right or not. I believe it's based on the hard-to-fill positions. Is that still the rationale that we use? The positions that are hardest to fill, sometimes we do have to offer more, but it's not necessarily, we're not categorizing or singling out any discipline as being more important than the other.
That's correct. I mean, I think that's a fair, assessment. And again, this, recommended increases are also based on the TASB study. I mean, they're recommending for us to, move up our stipends in these areas based on what they saw at the other school districts, and I mean, they looked at in most of the stipends, and we were on market or above market on most of them, but they felt that these needed to be adjusted.
Got it.
upward.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much.
Yeah, one of the other things that I do want to mention is that, as we compare, our salary, we still pay 100% of the health insurance costs for our employees. A lot of districts even in this area do not. They have their employees pay a portion of their own health insurance costs. I know that,
Very important.
Westaco, San Benito, Brownsville, they do. So that's an impact when individuals start to looking at their overall salary that they need to consider as they move forward. And we've been able to pay 100% of the cost for health insurance for our staff.
Unfortunately, I mean, we all agree. But, and we do this as well. We have over 120 employees, and we pay 100% of our which in the medical field is actually pretty rare. Ironically, right? You go to work for a physician's office, you would think, and it's actually very much the exception. It's usually 60, 70, 80, 85%, that kind of stuff. And most people just say, no, it's okay, I don't want it. And that's the reason why they don't pay 100%, in many instances, it's because they just said, okay, well, gosh, then we don't have to pay it all, right? And so I wish we can I hope we are, I know we have, and I think, our self-funded plan now, and, I think, but what I think we can always do a better job of getting the word out that this is a big deal, and they should take advantage of that, and take advantage of the wellness that's there available to them, take advantage of, because, again, at the end of the day, we're trying to make sure that they're taking care of themselves, right? Yeah. But this is a big deal. I just don't know, what percent of our, employees really know how big a deal it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be curious to know, to be honest with you, because, we work in the healthcare field, and to some of our folks, they're like, well, oh, well, whatever, and they don't even, of course, they're younger probably, and they don't, but still, you would hope that they realize what a big deal it is.
Yeah, health insurance cost is getting to be more expensive every year, and that's been the trend over the years. We've been able to stabilize our health insurance cost, and keeping in mind that we do want to focus on paying 100% of the employee share. And yeah, I agree. Businesses, they're doing more of the cost share with the employee as well.
I think what we have noticed, Doc, so sometimes we have employees that have been with us for the longest time and haven't had to worry about paying their insurance, and they consider leaving, and they look at another district who may have higher pay, but once they put pen to paper and realize that now they have to pay health insurance, then they say, okay, maybe not. Because they just have never experienced the impact of having to pay that health insurance because they've been with us so long. And then, by the same token, it's also something that has attracted some of the new people coming in because they've been used to paying health insurance, and then they come and it's like, wait, I don't have to pay that? That's an added savings to me. But to your point, I wonder if we need to do a better job of advertising that to our own staff because they've just become so used to it. It's just part of what they naturally live, right? Until they consider going elsewhere that they realize that there's a significant impact to paying health insurance.
I think the story should be, look at what we pay and our benefits. The benefits should always be right side by side. Look at our benefits, and they realize what a big deal it is. But your pay and benefits are huge in this district. We support our people. We believe in our people, and we want to support our people, and this is why we do this. And then when they realize that, they're like, okay, wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, competitive salary and 100% of the health insurance paid. Yeah, I agree. It's something that we definitely need to market. But again, with TASB study, their recommendations should bring us to over 100% market in pretty much in all of the areas. Again, the retention stipend, we're going to continue that, and this will probably be the final year, through the ESSER funding, at $1,500, per staff. So this is the actual, recommendation from TASB on the salary increases. they were actually recommending 1460, for teachers. We said, we can do a little bit better, so we'll do 1,500 per teacher, make those adjustments. Again, 2.5 for professionals and 3.5 for administrative support, with some equity adjustments in those particular areas, that people that needed to be brought up a little bit closer to, to the market. So that's what that is. Overall, that's a cost of about $5.4 million. About $4.4 million of that is local funded, general fund. The other one's funded through federal programs, such as food service, Title I, and those other federal programs. But it's a good size increase. But we're comfortable in that we were able to reduce some items in our budget to be able to fund that. TRE budget is very important as well, and this is our 7th year, Oscar, 8th year of TRE, 7th or 8th year, 7th year of TRE, and this is a TRE budget that we have for the upcoming year. I do want to point out, we talked about this at the last budget workshop, but school safety, we have allotted $750,000 there. Cameras upgrade another $150,000, so there's about $900,000 for school safety and cameras. One of the things that we're doing is, design the safety design committee is going to be meeting. They're going to be looking at what we're doing and coming forward with some recommendations. So, there's some monies there. There's also some monies that we allocated in our local funds, an additional $150,000, plus, some federal, state and federal grants that are coming down, as early as, next month. The state just passed, some state funding. So did the federal government. So we're keeping a close eye on that and how much funds we're going to be allocated. And that's just going to enhance, the overall safety of what we do. But just as a, as overall safety budget, we're about $3 million in what we earmark for safety, on the total budget. Any questions on that? Good. So I'm going to have Mr. Mendoza go over the revenues.
Mr. President, board members, Dr. Niola, senior team. Our estimated revenues for this coming year are as follows. We have, for the 3 funds that are up for approval, we have 3 revenue sources: local source, state sources, and federal sources. Our first option is our local sources. We are budgeting $53,934,328 for local sources. Of that, $51,459,000 are generated from our property taxes. That's about a 97% collection rate. Tuition and fees, about $34,000. Co-curricular enterprise and activities, $852,000, and miscellaneous revenue, $1.5 million. Again, that's an increase of $2.4 million as compared to last year. Again, the bulk of that increase is due to our property tax levy. Our state revenues are as follows: $137,334,522. That is generated by our estimated ADA for this coming year. We're estimating our ADA, as Mr. Cavazos mentioned, 16,275 ADA for this coming year. Again, and that's a conservative number. That's a decrease of $6.7 million as compared to last year. Again, that reflects the reduction in enrollment and through ADA. Federal programs, we are budgeting $25,266,534. Again, that's a slight increase of $800,000 as compared to last year's federal revenue sources. Total revenue projected for this coming year is $216,535,384. Again, that is for the 3 funds that are up for approval: our general fund, debt service, and our food service program for this coming year. Further breakdown of our property taxes. Again, property taxes, we are estimated $51,459,936. Again, $49,434,000 is our current levy that we expect to collect at 97%. Delinquent taxes, $1.1 million, and penalty and interest is $850,000 for this coming year.
Is that based on the change from 20% to 15%?
That is already included in there as well. Yes, sir.
Because we were collecting 20%, now we're down to.
Oh, on the tax, on the
Yeah, that percentage goes to the delinquent taxpayer.
taxpayer.
Yeah, those penalties.
Okay.
Miscellaneous revenues, we're budgeting $2,474,392. Of that, we have athletic revenues, $407,000, food service, $408,000, interest income, $335,000, and other revenue, $1.3 million for this coming year. The other revenue amount is made up of the health program, interest expense or interest earned, auction proceeds, stadium sponsorships, and technology fees.
Let me ask another question. On interest income revenue, do we expect that to go up over the year?
We do. I mean, this is this is based on the current interest rates. But yeah, we believe that the interest rates are going to continue to increase. So it's just going to add to that amount that we budgeted.
So like, what is the average interest rate right now?
It's, we're probably getting about a little bit over 1% from the pool swim.
Yes,
So
sir,
we
a
could
little
be
bit
doing
1%.
over 3 or better later in the year, correct?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
Yeah, so we expect that to go up, and hopefully, another, twice as much as that. We just didn't budget for it.
Right.
Their next revenue source is state revenues. Again, state revenues are generated by our ADA of 16,275 kiddos. In addition to that, our special populations generate additional revenue, and you can see that in this particular slide. Special education allotment, we're expecting to earn about $17.7 million. State comp, $7.9 million. Tier 2, $18 million. So total, $137,334,522 is what we expect to earn this coming year based on our student attendance and our average daily attendance as well. Federal revenues, we are budgeting $25,266,534. Again, the bulk of this federal revenues is from our food service program. School breakfast program, we're budgeting $5.2 million. National School Lunch Program, we're budgeting just a little bit over $9.5 million. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you one other question. I mean, I like this because it's very conservative. Back on the school safety allotment, I mean, that could possibly increase substantially with what the state legislature is going to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we do anticipate that the state appropriating some more monies for the safety program, which is not, it's not included in this budget. That's going to be supplemental to this budget. So anything that we get new from the state and even the federal government is going to be in addition to what we have in our budget.
Any idea of what's planned? Has anybody heard or anything?
There's been a lot of discussion. I think a lot of their focus has been around arming security and law enforcement personnel that may be at campuses. So I've heard things like shields and things of that nature. A lot of focus around mental health, in particular with safety, and so we're seeing a lot of that coming forward. Those two seem to be the primary areas, but that mental health component is one that we're seeing a lot of focus and attention on, and so we anticipate that we will see monies coming down for those particular areas, whether that's more counselors, school psychologists, et cetera, whatever things we feel we need to do to impact that mental health component.
Thank you.
So, I mean, and that's going to happen in the higher ed side as well. And so just today, UT system, we just approved $16.5 million invested over the next 5 years for mental health. So I think safety and mental health is going to be a huge push this next legislative session. So we'll see what comes from that. So.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Our federal revenues are as follows: $25,266,534. Again, of that, food service makes up the bulk of those funds for this coming year. We have $3 million budgeted in Strauss program, Medicaid program, and indirect costs for our grants, $3.3 million. There's a indirect cost rate that we are allowed to charge for administering the ESSER grants, so that makes up that amount. So we're looking at $25.2 million for this coming year in federal revenues. This is just a breakdown pie chart of the sources of revenues for our district. $137 million is made up of state sources, $25 million federal sources, $51 million from local property taxes and other funds. appropriations, Ms. Ambrose will cover the appropriations for our district for next year.
Good evening, Dr. Muniz, Dr. Nola, board members. I'll be covering the appropriations next. So here we have our appropriations by fund. For athletics, we have appropriated 4.2 million. For TRE, 10.1 million. General fund, 174.5. Food service, 18.2 million. Interest and sinking, 9.2, for a grand total of $216.5 million. Appropriations by expenditure type. For payroll, which is 72.9% here of our total appropriations budgeted, 157.8 million. Contracted services, 15.2. Supplies and materials, 17 million. Other expenditures, 4.4. Debt service, 12.4, and capital outlay at 9.4 million. Grand total, 216.5 million. Our appropriations by function, some of our larger ones here, we have instruction, function 11, at $105 million, makes up 48.6% of our budget. We also have school leadership, function 23, at 12.2 million. We also have food service at 17.5 million. And we also have function 52, security and monitoring services, 2.6 million. And that does not include an additional $500,000 that we will anticipate from federal sources like Title I and Title IV. And then we also have our debt service at 12.4 million and capital outlay at 5.9, grand total here, 216.5 million. Our appropriations by state programs, we have gifted and talented appropriated at 1.3, career and technology, 7.4 million, special education, 17.7, state compensatory, 17.9, bilingual, 1.3 million, early education, 1.9, pre-K, 2.1, college career military readiness, 438,000, dyslexia, 213,000, and high school allotment, 908,000. And then next we have a picture graph here for a visual image of our appropriations. And in the next few slides, we have prior year comparisons. This one right here is our general food service and debt, which is the budget we're here to propose to you tonight. It is by object code, so across you'll see our payroll, contracted services, supplies, operating expenditures, debt service and capital outlay, and then going down you'll see it be proposed here by function. And at the very bottom there you'll see a comparison of last year's budget as well. The next one here, again, is a prior year comparison for our general fund only. This next one is our food service. And then the last one here we have singled out is our debt service. Next we'll have our tax rate. Mr. Cavazos will come up. Thank you.
Thanks, Ida. So this is our tax rate comparison over the past 6 years. We've went over this before on our proposed tax rate that we're currently keeping it as is, and there are going to be some adjustments as we move forward to the actual finalized tax rate. This is the actual notice that went to the newspaper. Again, it was published on June the 18th. Had to be done 10 days prior to tonight's meeting, and it did. Some supplementary information, and this is our last, actually not the last slide. This is the additional federal revenues that we do get that are on top of the general fund, food service, and debt service fund. Another $71.3 million in additional revenues and expenditures appropriations that we're proposing. And this is the last slide. If you look at this is the total budget for all funds. In total, our total budget for all funds is $287 million. 900,000, about $288 million. That's the actual budget that our district has to operate this upcoming year. Not to include any additional federal grants or state grants that are coming through the safety initiatives that are being done at the federal and at the state level. So we'll as soon as we get more information on those funds, we're going to try and appropriate those as, as quickly as possible. That concludes the public hearing. I'd be glad to answer any questions that the board members might have.
Any questions? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen and ma'am.
Bring this meeting to order. This is a special board meeting. Time is 6:45. This has been posted in accordance to the Meetings Act. This evening,
Well, we do have a quorum. Can you guys hear me? Okay, we do have a quorum. Do we have any public comments tonight?
Mr. President, there are no requests for public comments for agenda items.
Thank you very much. And we're going to item number 4, consideration and approval of the Hcisd compensation plan for 2022, 2023. Ms. Debbie Scoggins.
Good evening, Dr. Muniz, Dr. Noyola, members of the board, senior team, and audience. The 2022-2023 Employee Compensation Plan is a comprehensive plan inclusive of the teacher hiring schedule, the salary pay structure, the stipend structure, and the extra duty pay structure. The plan includes the following: an adjustment to the teacher hiring schedule to include a starting rate of pay of $53,550 for first-year teachers, an increase in stipends for special education teachers, math and science secondary teachers, high school coaching stipends, and teachers who have a master's degree in their content area. Also included in the comprehensive plan is an increase to our bus driver minimum rate of pay to $16.75 per hour. We are further proposing a salary increase of $1,500 for teachers with up to 25 years of experience and $2,000 for teachers with 25 years of experience or more. As per the recently conducted TASB salary study, we are proposing that teachers receive additional salary adjustments designed to bring their pay above market value. We are recommending that hourly staff receive a 3.5% increase from midpoint, which would place all hourly employees at or above market value, and all other professionals a 2.5% increase from the midpoint. Also included is a one-time retention payment for all full-time employees in the amount of $1,500 to be paid $1,000 in December and $500 in May. Administration recommends approval of the 2022-2023 Employee Compensation Plan as presented.
Do I have a motion?
Move approval as presented.
What, second? Okay. Motion by Dr. Pettis, second by Ladio. Any questions, comments?
Just a quick comment, Mr. President. I think it's good to give credit to staff in this regard. I remember not quite the details, perhaps thankfully, but I do remember there was some emotional conversations and some folks that were pretty upset about perhaps the inequities or the gaps in their pay at the time. And I believe what the district did was respond appropriately and say, let's look at this for sure, but let's take the opportunity to look at everybody in the district. And had we not done that, we would not have figured out where our gaps were with our teachers, which in fact were the most significant gaps, especially in those 5 to 15 years, as Julio pointed out. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness and the way we went through this in a meticulous fashion and we responded appropriately. It took some time, but very proud of the district for responding in this way. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor, say yes.
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? All right. Motion passes. All right. Moving on to item number 5, approval of the Harlingen CISD 2022-2023 budget. Julio Cavazos.
Thank you, Mr. Moniz, Dr. Yola, board members. Agenda item number 3 is approval of the 2022-2023 school budget. The board is required to approve the general fund, food service fund, and debt service fund. Our general fund budget revenues and appropriation is $188,937,980. Food service fund budget revenues and appropriation is $18,297,429.24. Debt service fund revenue and appropriation is $9,299,975. All steps have been taken to comply with the truth and taxation requirements. We did have a public hearing earlier today. We're recommending approval. Be glad to answer any questions the board members might have.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I move approval of the HCISD 2022-2023 budget.
Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second over here. Did you get them? Ms. Fleury? Any questions or comments?
Great job, Julio.
Yes.
Great job, Willie, yes,
Thank you,
absolutely.
staff and Debbie.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Motion carries. All right, on to item number 6, approval of budget amendments. Julio Cavazos.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Muniz, Dr. Noyola. Agenda item 6 is the budget amendments. This is our final budget amendment for the school year. We're adjusting our revenues, to reflect the reduction in enrollment in ADA, as well as some salary items that, were not spent this year. So you do have that handout of the final budget amendment. Be glad to answer any questions that board members might have on that.
Any questions or comments? Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
Second.
All right, you got those, all right. Any questions or comments about this at all? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Motion carries. At this point in time, we will adjourn to close an executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.082, the Opens Meeting Act, for the following purposes: to discuss employment of teachers and other professional staff. We are now in closed session.
check the calories on Skinny Pop. And the other one.
All right, we are now reconvening into open session. The time is, looks like it's almost 7:28. And we want to have Debbie Scoggins discuss considering employment of teachers and other professional staff. Right?
No, I think we just,
Oh,
yeah.
we-
Motion
Sorry.
to,
Is there, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Can
go
I get
for
a
it.
motion?
Yeah, move to approve the employment of teachers and other professional staff as discussed in executive session.
We've got a first and a second. You writing that down? Is it not here? Okay. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, motion goes forward, and the meeting is now adjourned.
I vote
Thank-
yes.
Yes, it is.